First name up here on the list that I'm seeing is a guy who he needs some introduction. He's one of the few Flint historians out here, still recording the history as it unfolds here for this city and putting it in book form so that people who are interested in history, so that the future don't repeat itself, can delve into those pages and glean from the experience and the knowledge and data, whatever it is they're trying to find out about the history of Flint, right? So give it up for Gary Flinn. Yeah!
Thank you.
Yeah!
Or should I say silver?
Anything.
Whichever you prefer.
Yeah, don't listen to her.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Just dried at the end of the line.
Okay, I'm reading from my Hidden History of Flint book, which is available at many places locally and also online through the usual sources. And the cover price on this book is $21.99.
Only $21.99.
And alluding to your suggestion that some people steal ideas, well, this book is copyright 2017 by Gary Flinn, all rights reserved.
Smart man.
Yeah. And the chapter I'm reading is inspired by a recent tour that, well, this occasionally happens, but the Whaley House, which is mentioned in the chapter I'm reading, they held a walking tour of East Kearsley Street, showing where some historic houses once were. So we just walked from Whaley House down to Applewood and back, talking about the historic homes that once stood along the way. Not that many homes are there now, but two historic homes that were occupied by notable business people are still standing, as you know, and a couple of other homes that were occupied by other people, including one historic home which was occupied by a physician, but because he was a physician and not a businessman, he's not in this book. So here's the chapter called The Executive Homes on East Kearsley Street. When Charles Stewart Mott's Applewood estate was being built on what was then the edge of town on East Kearsley Street in 1916, that street east of downtown served as the home for many notable executives. For example, George C. Wilson at 422 East Kearsley Street was a banker and served as the director and chairman of the Genesee County Savings Bank, which evolved into Genesee Merchants Bank and Trust Company through the merger of Merchants of Canning's Bank. Wilson's mother, by the way, is W-I-L-L-S-O-N, so it's two L's in the name. Wilson's mother was a daughter of local lumber baron and Michigan Governor Henry H. Crapo. The home he grew up in is now Wilson Park on the University of Michigan Flint downtown campus. Charles Stewart Mott lived across the street at 423 East Kearsley. When he moved into Applewood, Albert Champion moved into that house. Champion founded two spark plug companies. He was a bicycle racer who founded the Albert Champion Company in Boston in 1905 in partnership with the Stranahan brothers. By 1907, they were manufacturing spark plugs. In 1908, Billy Durant persuaded Champion to move to Flint to establish the Champion Ignition Company. The Stranahans filed a lawsuit over the Champion name. That led to a settlement in 1922 in which the Champion Ignition Company was renamed the AC Spark Plug Company using Champion initials. At the time J. Brantford Pengali lived at 412 East Kearsley, he was Reverend Pengali, rector of St. Paul's Episcopal Church. He later changed careers and became a real estate developer. For example, he led the group of developers that built the Capitol Theater. Behind that theater building was a former Patterson factory building that he converted into an office building called the Pengali Building, where he established his office. It served as a home for several labor unions and the base of operations for the 1936-37 Flint sit-down strike. The aging building was torn down in 1946. He also dabbled in politics as an unsuccessful candidate for Congress and served as a state commissioner. Pengali was caught up in a bribery scandal in 1932 Well, he was eventually cleared of charges, not before he was forced into bankruptcy. During the Great Depression, he lost the Bengali building in the foreclosure. He moved away and resumed his ecclesiastical career, or shall I say pastoral career, where for 412 East Kearsley Street once stood is the University of Michigan Flint downtown campus. Walter P. Chrysler, who led the Buick Motor Division of General Motors in 1917, lived at 514 East Kearsley. Chrysler left GM when his contract with GM expired in 1919. In 1921, Chrysler acquired controlling interest in the Maxwell Motor Company, which became Chrysler Corporation. After Chrysler moved away, Dodge dealer Dallas Winslow moved in. Winslow tried to save the ailing Patterson Company, but he was unsuccessful. Later serving as home to an architect, it was gone by 1972. Horace C. Spencer lived at 517 East Kearsley Street. He was a banker who got a start in the local hardware business. He held executive positions with Genesee County Savings Bank and as Citizens Commercial and Savings Bank. That address would become the King's Daughters and Son home. As with neighboring homes, it fell victim to the construction of I-475. James G. Mallory lived at 527 East Kearsley. He owned the Flint Buggy Company. His son Harvey also worked at the Buggy Company. Harvey later became a vice president and controller at Buick.
Rewind!
James G. Mallory lived at 527 East Kearsley. He owned the Flint Buggy Company. His son Harvey also worked at the Buggy Company. Harvey later became a vice president and controller at Buick. He moved into the house after his father's death. Arthur G. Bishop and his son R. Spencer Bishop lived across what was then Richfield Road, later Lewis Street, and even later Chavez Drive. The younger Bishop lived at 528 Kearsley, and the elder lived at 606 Kearsley. Both led Genesee County Savings Bank, and Arthur G. Bishop donated land for the development of Bishop Airport. Harry Weingarten lived at 621 East Kearsley. The Russian immigrant co-founded the New Orleans Fruit House, which was a successful fruit and later meat market. Harry and his brother Hyman added another business venture, Weingarten Furniture. He would become a director of Citizens Bank. He co-founded the local Reformed Synagogue, Temple Bethel. Robert J. Whaley was another banker who led Citizens Bank. The loans he approved led to the formation of General Motors. That home at 624 East Kearsley is still standing and is now the Whaley Historic House Museum. Edward T. Strong lived at 703 East Kearsley. He was a Buick executive who would go on to become president at Buick. He later built and moved into a large castle-like Mediterranean revival house in the Worthcroft Estate subdivision south of Miller Road, where grander executive homes were built beginning in 1925. Built in 1930, and later owned by members of the Hamdy family of local grocery fame, the home on Parkside Drive was recently restored by its current owners. The Kearsley Street home had disappeared by the time Walker School, now the Walker Place building, was being built. Charles D. Bridgman lived at 814 East Kearsley. He was the Bridgman half of the Smith-Bridgman department store downtown, which became Flint's largest department store in his peak years. Bridgman was the first president of the Union Trust and Savings Bank, which is located downtown where the Mount Foundation building now stands. The Kearsley Manor apartment building now stands where the Bridgman house once stood. Matthew Davison was also an executive at Union Trust and Savings Bank. He served as the bank's cashier for many years and ultimately served as chairman of the board. He also served as Flint mayor in 1885. He lived at 817 East Kearsley, where Walker Place now stands. John G. Windiot lived at 902 East Kearsley. He was a real estate developer and a partner in Windiot Pierce Davison Real Estate Firm with John L. Pierce and Arthur M. Davison. The firm developed several subdivisions in Flint. Townhouses were built where Windiot lived. At 1025 East Kearsley stood a large stately house where carriage and automaker J. Dallas Dorr lived. After he died, his widow Marcia continued to live in that house until she donated in 1958 for use as a music school, which developed into the Flint Institute of Music. Originally called the Dort Music Building, expansion began in 1970 in the old Dort home. During construction, the former home was destroyed by fire. Today, the expanded facility housing the Flint Institute of Music is called the J. Dallas Dorr Music Center, and houses the Flint School of Performing Arts and the Flint Symphony Orchestra. Finally, where Kearsley Street now ends at Robert T. Longway Boulevard, is Mott's Applewood Estate. After Charles Stewart Mott's widow Ruth Mott died in 2012, the Ruth Mott Foundation took over Applewood, which began offering regularly scheduled tours in 2016 that marks Applewood's centennial. Applewood also,
Rewind.
finally, where Kearsley Street now ends at Robert T. Longley Boulevard is Mott's Applewood Estate. After Charles Stewart Mott's widow Ruth Mott died in 2012, the Ruth Mott Foundation took over Applewood, which began offering regularly scheduled tours in 2016 to mark Applewood's centennial. Applewood also offers scheduled events and exhibits. The addresses and residents were researched utilizing volumes of Flint City directories published by R.L. Polk and Company. That's my piece for this month.
Yeah!
Yeah.
Good job. Got a piece of Flint history. Ain't that nice?